Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to every learner or everyone watching this video on YouTube. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. So, I would be happy if you pick your graph book and you learn together with me. But before we move on to today's lesson, I beg of you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just take some few seconds of your time to subscribe for me so that you can view all other videos I may post. Today, as you already know, we are still on quadratic graph and its interpretation. And for today, we may consider the interpretation more. You can see a graph on your screen, and this graph is the graph of the function f of x equals negative x squared minus 4x plus 5. This graph that you see can be divided into 3 sections. As you see on the screen, the red curve part is 1, then down the x-axis we have 1 on the left side and the other on the right hand side. So down the x-axis we have 2 parts of the graph appearing below the x-axis, and then the other curve appearing up the x-axis. Before we go on with whatever we are going to do today, there is something you should know. Most of you watching this video know, but for the sake of those who do not know, let's look at this. On the y-axis, x is 0. That's why we have 0, 5 being plotted on the y-axis. That point, the x-coordinate is 0. Therefore, we plotted it along the y-axis. Then, another thing to know is that on the x-axis, y is 0. That's why we have this point 1, 0. The y-coordinate is 0. And we have negative 5, 0. The y-coordinate being 0. Now that you understand this, let's look at something too. When you are asked to find y greater than or equal to 0, it means all the points with y being 0 or more than 0, that's positive values of y, are accepted. And we include those with y being 0. So we have negative 5, 0, and that is on the x-axis. It has to be included. Then we have all these points on the curve having their y values above 0. Then we have the last one here, which is 1, 0, having the y value to be 0, and then must be included. So points on the x-axis with y coordinate being 0 should be included when we talk of y greater than or equal to 0. When we talk of y greater than 0, we mean that those values with y greater than 0 should be included, and those with y being 0 should be excluded from our answer. I hope that is also understood. Then, when we talk of y less than 0, it means that those with the values of y being 0 should be excluded from our answer, but those with y being less than 0, that is negative values of y, should be included in our answer. And then, when we talk of y less than or equal to 0, it means that those with y values of 0 should be included in our answer, and those with y less than 0, that is the negative values, should also be included in our answer. So these are some of the things you should know, and if you've really understood this, then we can move on. But if you don't understand it, go back, rewind the video for better understanding. When you are asked to find the range of values of x for which y is greater than or equal to 0 on your graph, then consider the points. Those with values greater than or equal to 0 must form part of our answer. So, starting from our first point, the y value of this point is -7. It is not positive. Therefore, it can be part of our answer. When we move to the point on the x-axis, we have the y value being 0. And from this condition, if y is 0, it should be included in our answer. And we are going to find the range of values of x. So the x value should be written. Then, as we move along, we see that for all these points, y is greater than 0. The y values are greater than 0. Then when we get to another point on the x-axis, y is 0. Which means that the answer starts from where y is 0 and ends at where y is 0. And those x values should be included in our answer. So for this point, -50, we write the -5 and it should be included in our answer. And for 10, we write 1 because we need the values of x, and it should also form part of our answer. So the range of values of x for which y is greater than or equal to 0, when we write the answer in inequality form, we have x is greater than or equal to -5 but less than or equal to 1. All these x values are included in our answer. And if you want to write it in the interval notation form, then because of the equal to beneath the greater than and the less than sign, we have to write close bracket -5, 1 close bracket. Then for y greater than 0, this would give us the same values of x, -5 and 1. But for this one, because 0 is not included in our answer, and -5 has a value of y being 0, and that of 1 has a value of y being 0, we exclude them from our answer. That's why you don't have the equal to sign beneath the inequality signs. If you bring the equal to signs, then the answer tends to be y greater than or equal to 0. For that reason, because these x values are excluded, when we want to write it in the interval notation form, we write open bracket -5, comma 1, open bracket. So now we are done with the part above the x axis. Once we are done, we come down to the part which is beneath the x axis. So we come to the range of values of x for which y is less than or equal to 0. The range of values of x for which y is less than or equal to 0. From the graph, look at our first point. The y value is -7, which is less than or equal to 0. Therefore, that should be included in our answer. And then when we move to the x-axis, the point there, -5, 0, the y value is 0, and it should also be included in our answer because for this condition, it says that y is less than or equal to 0. Therefore, we write the s values for these 2 points in the inequality form, and we include them all so that they may satisfy the condition given above, which is read as x is greater than or equal to -6, but less than or equal to -5. And for this, write it in the interval notation form on your own. Then, one may ask, why this second answer? We have 2 parts beneath the x-axis. So when you write one of them, you are not done. We move to the right-hand side part. We can see that 1 has a value of 0, which satisfies the equation. So we write 1. And then we have the last point, which has y value of -7. So it is also part of the answer. And therefore we write x is greater than or equal to 1, but less than or equal to 2. So these 2 answers are the range of values of x for which y is less than or equal to 0. This means that when we want to consider y, the range of values of x for which y is less than 0, these two answers would appear. But with that, we don't include those x values. We may exclude one of them. So let's look at that one. So to find the range of values of x for which y is less than 0, first of all, look at the left hand side and see which one satisfies the condition given. We have first point with y value being -7. So we have to write that x value -6. Then when we get to the other point, here the y value is 0. So we write that one, but we exclude its s value, because the s value -5 gave a value y value of 0, which for this condition does not accept that. So we have -6 being included but -5 being excluded, and which is read as x is greater than or equal to -6 but less than -5. These two, write it in the interval notation form on your own. Then we come to the right hand side, and that too we may write R1 and 2 and include 2 because 2 has a negative y value, but this one has a value of 0 for y, which should be excluded. And therefore we have x is greater than 1 but less than or equal to 2. Write this answer 2 in the interval notation form. So this ends our lesson for today. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel for me. And if anything is difficult for you to understand, go back to the video, watch it over and over again for better understanding. We may look at where the graph is positive. This is negative. So we may look at when the graph is positive, and that would be our next lesson. May God be with us all till we meet again in our next lesson. Bye.